The race for president has undergone a seismic shift here in the U.S. over the past few days, and later Donald Trump will hold a rally for the first time since his opponent changed from an 81-year-old man to a 59-year-old woman. And during that event in North Carolina, the audience will likely get to hear his new lines of attack against Kamala Harris. Now, Trump held a conference call with reporters on Tuesday and said he is willing to debate Harris, suggesting he might be open to multiple face-offs. CNN's Elena Treen has been following the Trump campaign and joins us from Washington. Now, Elena, at past rallies, Trump has used the same lines of attack on Biden that he knows will work, but he's got to likely change things up now with a new opponent, doesn't he?
He does, and we're hearing him kind of test drive some of those attacks already, but we will definitely hear a flurry of them at that North Carolina rally today, I'm told. Now, look, when Donald Trump steps back onto the campaign trail, it will be an entirely different race and an entirely different political landscape, and one that seems destined to have him face off against Kamala Harris in the fall. And I can tell you, Omar, from my conversations with Trump's advisors, they are very closely watching what Arlette just laid out, which is the new surge in Democratic donations as well as enthusiasm in recent days. Now, this rally tonight will be the first Donald Trump holds since Biden stepped aside and ended his campaign over the weekend. Now, to discuss some of those lines of attack, I do want you to listen to what he told reporters yesterday. He kind of test drove some of those during a call with them. And I should note that this is the first call of its kind that he has held this election cycle. Take a listen.
Kamala Harris was appointed border czar, as you know, in March of 2021, and since that time, millions and millions of illegal aliens have invaded our country. And as weak-on-crime prosecutor in sanctuary jurisdiction of San Francisco, Kamala refused to seek the death penalty against anybody. I agreed to a debate with Joe Biden, but I want to debate her, and she'll be no different because they have the same policies.
Now, a couple things to point out there, Omar. One is a quick fact check. Biden never appointed Kamala Harris to be his quote-unquote border czar. He did task her with handling diplomatic relations and long-term relations with Central America, but the overall responsibility for the border has always been on the Department of Homeland Security. And then I also just want to point out that at the end there, him talking about wanting to still debate Kamala Harris is very interesting to note. I think we should bookmark that and see if that actually ends up coming to fruition. I know there are conversations behind the scenes about whether or not that is a good opportunity for Donald Trump. But look, Trump's goal is to really try and define Harris right now before what they think will be the entire Democratic machine starts giving her more momentum. Even though she is the vice president, in their minds, they argue that she isn't as well known. And so they're trying to kind of race against the clock to define her in their own terms. Now, I'm also told that, they do plan to use some of the same lines that they had planned on Biden, which is going against her for crime, border, immigration, economy, all of the issues where Donald Trump polls better. However, they also recognize privately that it is very unclear what this is going to look like. They have spent an entire year plus sharpening their attacks, spending millions of dollars on data and modeling, all to go after Joe Biden, an unpopular 81-year-old. And so this is this new dynamic obviously throws a lot of uncertainty for their own campaign as well.
Elena Treen, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
The last 3 weeks have taught us anything. It's that 24 hours can be a lifetime in politics. And the reality right now is one even the Trump campaign just can't ignore. Trump pollster Tony Fabrizio wrote this in a memo. He's trying to get ahead of what he dubbed the Harris honeymoon. Quote, "We will start to see public polling, particularly national public polls, where Harris is gaining on or even leading President Trump." Well, here it is. A new Reuters Ipsos poll shows Kamala Harris 2 points ahead of Donald Trump. That is within the margin of error. So here at CNN, we characterize that as having no clear leader. But let's compare it to the same poll, the Reuters Ipsos poll, conducted on July 16th, so that you can see how this poll has moved. So look there on the left of your screen. It's July 16th, days after the assassination attempt against Donald Trump. Trump is up by 2 points. Of course, again, no clear leader in that poll. But look at the movement, July 22nd, July 23rd, Harris +2. That's a swing of 4 points. Now, Fabrizio, the Trump pollster, argues it's going to go away as the Trump campaign works to tie Harris to Joe Biden. But this is a reality shift for former President Trump. Now, he did not have a public event scheduled, but apparently he feels the need to get into this conversation here. This was a rare move from a candidate. He used a press call to try to launch an attack on his new opponent.
As a result of her dangerously extreme immigration policies, the largest invasion in history is now taking place at our southern border, and it's getting worse, not better.
All right, joining us now, Jeff Mason, White House correspondent for Reuters. We also have Brad Woodhouse, Democratic strategist, former DNC spokesman, and Scott Jennings, CNN senior political commentator, former special assistant to President Bush. Welcome to all of you.
Good morning.
Brad and Scott, we were joking that we were sitting next to each other on Friday, and everything we said is now out the window because of what's happened. Look, the reality here, then Scott, let me give this to you. I mean, Fabrizio is saying, look, this is just a honeymoon. This is going to go away. She's going to have all this money, all this excitement, but we're going to ultimately define her and change that game. But, Trump hasn't been behind. These national polls, do not matter at the end of the day. The swing state polls matter, but they do tell us something about the state of play.
Yeah, he's a little ahead in the Marist poll that came out yesterday as well. Look, I would anticipate the polling between the two of them head-to-head is going to be nip-tuck for the rest of the race. And the reality is a tied race for Donald Trump in the national head-to-head probably means he wins the Electoral College. So they don't have to have a huge margin of lead or victory of the national popular vote. But there will be Democrats. I mean, it's obvious. I think the Democrats are like, if you have like this terrible itch in the center of your back and finally someone handed you a back scratch, I think you're hearing relief from Democrats that they finally shed themselves of
I don't know
Joe
about
Biden.
that image at this time of the morning, but I understand your point.
And my personal view is there's a bit of a rational exuberance going on about Harris, who's never proven to be all that skillful of a politician. And so we'll give it 7 to 10 days and see where we are after her record is exposed.
I mean, I really think you're underplaying what we've seen over the last 72 hours and how fundamentally this race has shifted. I mean, your folks were in Milwaukee saying that this was going to be a landslide victory for Donald Trump, that you were going to expand the map. And you had New Mexico would be in play, and Colorado would be in play, and Minnesota would be in play. Look, some of that might actually happen.
It was true at the time.
But there is no landslide talk coming from Donald Trump, coming from his campaign, or coming from the Republican Party. And look, if you want to know how freaked out the Republican Party is about Kamala Harris and this change and the fact that they didn't get to run a convention against her, all that money spent in Milwaukee last week was flushed down the toilet. Just look at Donald Trump. Look at Donald Trump. He wants to be reimbursed for the money that the Republicans spent running a race against Joe Biden. This race has fundamentally changed. No one on your side is talking landslide anymore. It's a toss-up race. It's close. But we have about 300 million reasons to be pretty pleased in terms of 150 million has come in to the super PAC supporting Harris. It was just reported this morning, $126 million been raised by the Harris campaign since President Biden endorsed her. So you want to sneeze away almost $300 million in 72 hours.
I acknowledge it. I mean, she's always been better at getting money than votes. I mean, not a single person's ever voted for her for this. And yet here she has it, so good job.
Well, we'll see.
I mean, this is,
we'll see.
Scott is giving you the spin, okay? That is what they are going to say, and that's fine. Jeff, let me bring you in here. You've covered the White House and presidential campaigns for a long time. I think we're all, my head is still spinning a little bit because, we're going to hear from President Biden tonight. But I think as much as these two guys are trying to say, look, this is how the race is, if we've learned anything, it's that we have no idea how these following weeks are going to play out. We do know it's going to be a close election because this country is closely divided. And in that Reuters poll, I want to bring this up just because I think it's really interesting. We don't want to underestimate the impact of third-party candidates on this race. And so in this instance, you see Harris actually pretty much holding, so she drops from 44 to 42 in this one, but Donald Trump drops from 42 to 38. So he's lost 4 points to her 2 points. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. polling at 8%. I think we should note this doesn't include some candidates that might poll from Harris, including Jill Stein, the Green Party candidate, Cornel West, who's also running in this race. But this, I think that there is a significant amount of uncertainty here now that this has changed so fundamentally.
Absolutely. starting with an I just got back from Rehoboth yesterday. I was there for a week on Biden Watch, and so I'm gonna warn everyone that I'm
Watch.
What a terrible, what a terrible assignment. What a terrible assignment.
Watch being like what he was gonna do, and we found out what he did on Sunday. But yeah, to your point, Casey, I think it's changed. That changed everything, and yet there are lots and lots of unknowns. I think it's absolutely right that the polling right now is showing shifts, but it's going to be a close election. I think it was going to be a close election either way, and the impact of a third-party candidate is interesting. In that poll, there were question marks about whether RFK Jr. would take away more from the Democratic side or take away more from the Republican side. Certainly, it makes you wonder if that call between RFK Jr. and Donald Trump would have been any different if this kind of polling was clear then, and maybe it was. But yeah, lots and lots of questions still. I also agree that Vice President Harris is having a terrific moment, but it's also almost certainly a honeymoon. We'll see how long that lasts. The momentum that's showing in the money is clear, but will that enthusiasm continue in the states that really matter?